in terms of Parasite, you began by saying that I had said to you, look, don't know anything, just go along and see it. Yes. And I want to begin by saying that the best way of seeing Parasite is by knowing very little about it. The trailer reveals a certain amount up to a certain point, and Bong Joon-ho himself has said, please don't reveal anything beyond what is revealed in the trailer. He has obviously had some hand in how much is shown in the trailer. So obviously the ideal thing is to see it completely cold, but I will endeavour not to give away any more spoilers than you did. So we'll talk in generalities. Firstly, to say, I think Parasite is just titanically good. And I have seen it 4 times now, and I now cannot wait to go and see it again. When I was in the Rotterdam Film Festival, Bong Joon-ho unveiled a black and white version of it, which I hope that will be theatrically released here at some point. I haven't seen the black and white version. I think he did that before with Mother. And I read an interview with him in which he said that what the black and white version did was actually played up the shades of grey between the two families. You refer there to there was a mention of the Hitchcockian thing, which Bong Joon-ho is particularly pleased about. There's a superb article in, I think it's in Sight and Sound, about Tony Raines talking about what Hitchcockian means in terms of Bong Joon-ho. But weirdly, for me, the thing that I thought was this tale of two families is almost more Shakespearean than Hitchcockian, in that, like Shakespeare, it encompasses tragedy, comedy, romance, history, mystery, otherworld. All of these things are brought together. And if you think about a Shakespeare play, you'd have moments of comedy within tragedy. You'd have moments of tragedy within comedy. You'd have all these things mixed together. In the Parasite, what you have is two families who sort of seem to mirror each other. One lives very high up in this kind of glass, spacious, beautifully designed building in which everyone seems to have a lot of space around them. The others are in this tiny, small, semi-basement, literally physically far, far below. So the social strata is demonstrated through geography, which is both actual geography and psychogeography. And what happens is that these families are brought together, and then the narrative is about what happens when they're brought together. Now, it's very important to say from the beginning that the title, Parasite, which apparently in its original has more of an insect element to it, but the title is clearly ambiguous. Who or what is the parasite? Is it society? Is it one family feeding off another? What is the parasitical relationship? And that is deliberately ambiguous all the way through. And what I loved about this film was so much of the storytelling, and the dialogue is brilliant, but so much of the storytelling is visual. I mean, Bong Joon-ho storyboards everything so that by the time he gets to the set, he knows exactly what every shot looks like. This, of course, is very Hitchcockian. But so much of the story is told through the visuals that everything about what's happening and what's going on in these different stratas of the story. And it is a film which has multiple layers in it, both narratively and geographically and in terms of the film itself. I mean, on the 4th time I saw it, I was seeing things that I hadn't seen before. Just delightful little, I think everyone calls them Easter eggs now, details that are buried within the fabric of the film. And what you realise again, and this is not unlike Knives Out, you realise that as the film takes these shifts of tone, none of them are random. They are all built into the fabric of the film. And actually, once you've seen it and enjoyed all the surprises and all the twists and turns, see it again, because it's so fabulous to see it again playing out like this really beautifully constructed sort of Swiss watch mechanism of a movie. I also think if you know Bong Joon-ho's back catalogue, I mean, if, for example, you've seen things like Snowpiercer, which was essentially high-rise on a train, again, that's about a kind of class struggle. If you look back through his back catalogue, the distrust of authority, the distrust of wealth, the kind of questioning of morality and authority and positions of power is something which runs all the way through his back catalogue. And that's absolutely woven into this. There's also a sense of melancholia. I mean, the kind of the melancholia that you would get from a ghost story, or the melancholia that you would get from a story of heartbreak or longing. It's not just that it's, I mean, the things he mentioned, black comedy and horror, and you get all that from the trailer. What you don't get from the trailer is the intensity, the emotional intensity of it underneath. I would say that the cast is pretty much across the board absolutely pitch perfect. I think the music, the Jung Jae-il's music, which goes from this somber piano theme at the beginning through this kind of almost orchestral choric Band of Faith thing to something which ends up with musical saws and choral vocals bouncing off each other. I think this film is as close to perfect as anything I have seen in the last 10 years. It's just fantastic.